65% of all US adults say money negatively impacts their health. Even if you're not stressed about money, it can be argued that it's always good to have more of it. And it's always good to find ways that you can make some income on the side and find ways that reward you for your time spent doing them. In this series, I break down things that I've tried that actually did make me money, rewarded me for my time fairly, either through being extremely passive or actually paying me decent money for doing them. I'm going to break down everything, what I tried, how you can set that up as well, how much I earned, and more importantly for me, giving you the dollar hourly rate for each of these side hustles so you get a better idea of if this is actually worth your time or not. No false claims and no BS. I'll start from the thing that I tried that made me the least money all the way to the thing that made me the most money. Before we get started, smash the like button, smash the comment button, smash the subscribe button, and smash your laptop, of course, if you're also interested in understanding money, how to make more money, and how to save it. The first hustle that I tried this month was usertesting.com. Simply put, usertesting.com is a survey site. Companies pay hundreds and thousands of dollars to user testing to get access to their platform. And on their platform, they get access to users like you and I that have specific interests. For example, I like video games, I like technology, I like finance, and maybe you like fashion, clothing, beauty, whatever it is. There's companies out there that want opinion on products and websites that are catered to a specific audience. And this is where user testing steps in. They give these companies access to individuals to review their products and websites so they can better improve their products. The sign-up process for this is extremely simple. You go and type your email and a password. You can also use your Google account if you want to. And then you have to fill out some basic information about yourself. For example, location, the industry that you work in, the country you live in, maybe some of your social networks, the gaming genres you play, the languages you speak, and the devices you have. And based on the information that you fill out, you get access to a bunch of surveys. Each one of these surveys pay from $4 to up to $60. The $4 and $10 surveys are the most common, and they take around 10 to 15 minutes to complete, depending on the complexity of the survey itself. And even though user testing claims 15 minutes, most of these tests, in my experience so far, can be done in under 10 minutes. One thing to note about this, if you're trying it out, is that you're not going to qualify for all of these surveys. A lot of the times, you're going to fill out this pre-screening criteria that they give you, you're going to reach the middle of the survey, and then you'll answer a question, after which you'll be disqualified for the survey because that's not what the surveys are looking for, and you'll have to move on to the next survey. In my experience, out of every 7 surveys, you're going to qualify for 1 survey. For the month of May, I did 4 of these surveys, 3 $10 surveys, and 1 $60 survey, bringing my total to $90 or 124 Canadian dollars. This video is in Canadian dollars because I'm in Canada. You have to deal with it. I'm sorry. From a time perspective, which is really important and one thing that I do want to focus on for each of these side hustles, the $60 survey was simply a 1-hour-long interview for a company that was interested in making a travel product for business expenses. When you work for a company, you sometimes have travel expenses and other employee expenses, and they were interested in getting my thoughts on, as an employee and someone who's worked for a company, what I think should be the features going into the app. They showed me a demo and I gave them some feedback on things I liked, things I didn't like, things I would improve. And the interview actually ended in 45 minutes and they didn't even go the full 60 minutes since I feel like they got everything that they wanted out of me. And even though each of the $10 survey only takes 10 or 15 minutes, you also have to factor in the time you spent applying for the other surveys that you didn't qualify for. So for me personally, I think that each one of these $10 surveys took me 20 minutes to complete. Factoring in the time I spent applying to surveys that I didn't qualify for, which means that this comes out to $30 an hour. So $30 an hour, and then you have $60 an hour, average that out to $45 an hour. And you might be wondering why I didn't do more of this if this is $45 an hour. A, you're not going to get many surveys anyways, and B, I frankly did not have the time this month to do many surveys. That is why for this month, this only comes out to $124. One thing to note about user testing also is that during the survey, you have to speak your thoughts, and you have to sometimes show your face as well. For most of them, you only have to speak out loud and not show your face, so that I guess is a plus for most people. But if you're someone that is shy speaking in a microphone, I do recommend that you practice somewhat and say random things in the microphone, record yourself, and see what that feels like so you can get comfortable when you're actually doing the tests. For me, user testing is a perfect A-grade side hustle. You don't have to spend too much time, and you get rewarded decently for your efforts. $10 per 20 minutes of worth, in my estimation, is more than some jobs pay you. Minimum wage is $7 and some cents in some states, so that gives you a nice idea of how powerful this side hustle actually is. The second hustle I tried was userinterviews.com. This is extremely similar to usertesting.com, except this is only longer studies. Similar to usertesting.com, userinterviews.com is also going to make you fill out a bunch of information about yourself and certain details like your job title, your current employment status, and what your interests are, which is how they send you surveys. Once you get these surveys, they tell you exactly what the survey requirements are and give you a little blurb about what the survey actually is. And I also prefer that they give you the study dates so you can find out if you're too early or too late in applying for a study and not waste your time in the application process. As with user testing, you also have to fill out a pre-screener, and most times you're not going to qualify for one of these studies. However, if you do qualify for one of them, it is usually going to pay you way more than an average user testing study. For all of the studies that I've done, I've been paid more than $80 and up to $150. Another thing to note about usertesting.com is that they only pay out mostly in gift cards. With user testing, you can get paid out in PayPal and directly deposit that money to your bank account. However, with user interviews, you're not going to get usually a PayPal gift card. You're usually going to get a choice to get an Amazon gift card or a big retailer gift card. For me, that's not a problem because I do end up buying things on Amazon that I need. For example, clothes or some items for the house. But if you want to interchange your Amazon gift cards earned from user interviews, you can go to the subreddit called Gift Card Exchange, which has verified gift card exchangers that can pay you real money for your gift cards. One thing to note here is that the value you get for your gift card is going to be slightly less in cash. For example, for a $180 gift card, the cash amount you receive is probably going to be somewhere around $150 to $160. For me, I only qualified for one of these studies and that paid me $120 for an hour-long interview. That turns out to 165 Canadian dollars. Throughout the month, I have spent probably 2 to 3 hours on the maximum side applying for these studies, which means that my hourly wage for this was $40 an hour. Once again, as with user testing, I couldn't do many of these since I had limited time, which does happen when you work full-time or have other responsibilities. The good thing about user interviews and user testing is that you can have a method to the madness. You can block out a time in your day which you spend specifically applying to studies and applying to surveys. For me, this was 30 minutes in the morning. I would wake up and I would just go on my computer and apply to as many studies as possible. And if I did get a study in user testing, I would just do it and spend 10 to 15 minutes completing that study. But this 30 minutes for you could be not in the morning, but in the evening as well, before you go to sleep. Basically, any time you feel like is free and you have some energy to do this, I highly recommend you incorporating this into your daily routine just so that you can get the sense of what it feels like to have that $10, $20 pour in a day, which in my opinion is not a bad feeling. For me, user interviews is a B- side hustle, and I did grade it below user testing for one particular reason, that it's much harder to get studies that you qualify for, and also you can only do longer studies, so you have to schedule them and take some more time out of your day, time that you might not have if you have other responsibilities like a job or maybe a kid or a dog or anything. The third and final side hustle that I'm going to talk about in this video is dividends. Juicy dividends. Dividends are essentially profit payments that companies pay shareholders as an incentive to keep on holding the company's stock and also as a way to just give back some of the company's value to the shareholders. It is a perfect way, in my opinion, to earn extremely passive side hustle income. If you think about it, you don't really have to do anything to get this money. You just have to invest in the stock market. And that is extremely easy to set up as well. You can download a no-cost broker, for example, Robinhood, Webull. If you're in Canada, you can download Wealthsimple, Questrade, and you can make your first deposit. And if I'm being honest, it can be very overwhelming when you first start investing because you don't know where to start. The good thing is you don't need to know much. Although I am not a financial advisor, this is just my personal opinion and I'm just sharing what I have done. I think the best course of action for myself was to look at ETFs or exchange trade funds. Exchange trade funds are essentially funds that hold a basket of companies. If you think about it, if you buy Apple or Google, even though Apple and Google are doing really well right now, you don't really know how well they'll be doing 20 or 30 years into the future. So to mitigate this, exchange trade funds buy not just one company, 2 companies or 3 companies, they buy hundreds of companies just so that you can own not just one company, but a large part of the stock market, giving you a high probability to make money in the long run. And because I like this idea of not investing in one company, because I'm afraid that it might go under, I mostly invest my money in ETFs. They're available on all major brokers as well, which makes it easy for me to buy them. My favorite ones include ETFs that track the S&P 500 or the 500 biggest companies in the United States of America. These companies like Apple, Microsoft, Google, Nvidia, Tesla, they're not going anywhere in the future and probably are going to keep on gaining value. Although I cannot predict which one's going to outperform the other, if I buy ETFs that track the S&P 500, for example, VU, I can be sure that I'm going to take part in every company's success. I want the world stock market to do well. Similarly, I also own an ETF that tracks the TSX 60 or the Canadian S&P 500, just less good and less returns overall. But since I live in Canada, I want to partake in the Canadian financial sector and the Canadian energy sector, 2 behemoth sectors. Most ETFs that you buy are going to have a dividend yield listed. For example, for this S&P 500 ETF, the dividend yield is around 1%, and for my Canadian TSX 60 ETF, the dividend yield is around 4.5%. So how do these dividends actually get get paid. The payment frequency depends on the ETF itself. For my Canadian ETF, it pays me monthly. And for my S&P 500 ETF, it pays once every quarter. So roughly for every $100 I invest in the S&P 500 ETF, I'm going to get around $1.2 back. You might be thinking that is not a big amount and I'm stupid for doing this. But the thing to note here is that the dividend is not the only thing you get back. The ETF also goes up in price. Just a year ago, this ETF was trading at $100 and now it's trading at around $130. So I got that $30 plus I got this $1.1 as well. For the month of May, I received around $240 in dividend income. Most of the income was from ETFs, like I said, tracking the S&P 500 and TSX 60. And I also got dividends from companies like P&G, Procter & Gamble that make baby diapers all the way to chips that you can eat. Just because I think P&G is not going anywhere and their products are only going to be consumed more in the future. But you don't have to worry about P&G or individual companies. Even if you stick to just ETFs, you're most probably not going to be disappointed in investing in ETFs since the long-term growth potential is still there and you get rewarded with these dividends as well. Just to put this into some context, if I take $240, which I earned absolutely passively, I didn't have to do anything to get this $240 in my bank account, and I divide that by the minimum wage of my current location, which is $16.55 in Ontario, I get 14.5, which means that I basically work 14.5 hours. This is extremely powerful, and you might think that you have to invest a lot to get started, which is true. The only thing that you have to keep in mind with this is that it has a snowball effect. The more you invest, the more you earn, and you can just keep on putting those earnings back into the stock market itself to generate you more income. For me, it was tough to start off and put that initial investment in because I was basically earning pennies every month. But once I did and I stuck to it for a couple of years now, I'm really starting to see the power of dividend investing. I'm going to rate this an A+ simply for the fact that I don't really have to do any work to get this income and my money is protected for the long run as well. So those were the 3 hustles that I did to make nearly $500 in May, and maybe some things that you can start as well to make that extra money that's going to make a difference maybe in your investing or maybe in your saving. Once again, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, and smash your laptop if you enjoyed this and are interested in learning more about money, how to make more money, how to save and invest, or just better understand it. I hope you enjoyed this and I'll see you in the next one.